Hello and welcome back to episode 2 in my tailoring academy. And today we actually not gonna make any tailoring, so I will remove these scissors here because we're gonna do a lot of mathematics instead. I'm gonna try to show you how to make a men's basic sloper, and for that we have a lot of stationary material over here. So I will try to explain what we have here, and then I'm gonna try to draw a basic sloper over here. I got a lot of questions on how to do this when you don't have a dress stand, so here we go. We will use a calculator here this time, and this is just an old school calculator I usually use, but of course you can use a more modern one that will probably be better. And we're gonna use a tape measure. You don't necessarily need to use a tape measure, but I think it's easy to not use the rulers all the time. And we have a right angle ruler here. It has 90 degrees over here and two 45 degrees angles, so it's really practical. And you have measurements up here too, so you can measure your measurements in either way on these ones. Here we have what I usually call a French curve. It's plastic, so it's not so easy to see the shape of it, but what you have here is that you have a more curved curve over here, and then it's more straight over here, so you can turn it to the shape you want it to be, and you have that for necklines and armholes and so forth. So I usually call this a French curve, but there are different names of them. And this one is usually called a tailor's ruler, or a tailor's French hip curve, or a French, just a French ruler. Over here you have the shape of a hip, and here you have a straight, right angle, and you have a lot of measurements over here and over here. So that's that one. Here I have some markers in different colors. I have red, blue and green here, could be any colors. These are a little bit larger ones, so I can mark up so I see lines clearly when I want to separate them. And then I have an ordinary pen here. I have a construction chart over how to make my lines. And over here I have a pencil and a eraser. I usually use that when I draw, but I don't think you will see the lines here on the video, so I will try to use this one instead. So I hope I not will do any mistakes, and if I do, you have to accept that. This construction manual is one I had developed, and if you want to get more information about that, you can look in the description below the video. And of course there are hundreds, or I don't know, thousands, but there are a lot of description how to make this. And the idea with this one I have is to make it as simple as possible, so it will be easy. So you can see it's no text here, and it can be maybe a little bit difficult in the start, but after a while it gets easy because you just see the lines and the measurements and you go from there. So, and as usual, I have a little As usual, I have a disclaimer. This video is made for inspiration, and if somebody tells you to do it in another way, you can choose which one to go by. And another thing that's important is that you have the correct measurements. So I have a little measurement chart over here where I've taken the measurements I wanted to use, and make sure that you looked into the video number 1 in this series, how to measure for a jacket, because each way to measure fits with the construction. So you can not take this construction and use others' way to measure, because that's not going to fit. So that's an important thing to do. So we start, and I usually start with center back, and I will draw that line over here, and the center front will end up here in this side of the area. So I start up by drawing a line over here. So I hope you can see the line over here, and this is the center back. And if you can't see the lines so clear, I will mark them up in the end so you can see them even clearer. On this area here, I want to mark up the length of the whole jacket, and this is going to be this area, and I want to mark up the back waist length, and it's going to be here because the neck is up here and the waist is down here, and I'm going to mark up a hip line down here, and then there's going to be a chest line up here. So I start with the tailor's hip curve over here, and I just make a right angle up here, and I don't know how long this angle gonna be just yet. And then I measure up the length of the jacket from down here and up to here. So this will be the neck point up here. And then I also measure from up the neck down to the waist, and that is the back waist length. And it will end up here. And as you can see, I'm not mentioning any measurements because some will use centimeters, some will use inches, but I tell you how to calculate them. So from up here to down here, you have the back waist length. This area here I will divide in 2. So I mark that over here, and this area I will divide in half too, so it will be a quarter down here. From the waistline down, I will mark a fixed measurement down here, and it's 16 centimeters. And this is for the hip line. So from these measurements, I will make a grid over here. So I start up here at the neckline, and it's very important to make a right angle up here. So I draw the line up here. I don't know how long it will be yet. I draw the waistline up here, and I draw the hip line over here. Up here, where the chest line is, I will not use this that was half of the back waist length. I will go 2 centimeters up and 2 centimeters down and use those measurements instead. So I mark a little bit up and a little bit down, and the lowest mark I will make a right angle up all the way here, and the higher mark, I will do a little bit shorter line over here. And if you think the lines are not really straight, I'm sorry, because the camera distorts the lines a little bit, but I will assure you they are quite straight here. So this was the marks here. Up here is the neck, here is the quarter of the back waist length, here is the half of the back waist length. I go a little bit up and make a shorter line, I go a little bit down, make a long line. Down here is the full back waist length, so this will be the waist. And then I go 16 centimeters down, and this will be the hip, and this will be the length of jacket. So this is the center back. Now we'll measure out to the center front, and that will be over here. And for that I will calculate the half of the chest girth. So the half of the chest girth up here, and to make my grid absolutely square, I'll measure out 2 places, so it's a little bit easier to make a right angle. And then I draw the center front up here all the way down. So now you can see I have the center back here, I have the center front over here, neck up here, and the length of the jacket down here and the waist here. I will repeat things a couple of times just to make sure that you can follow it all the way through, because it can be a little bit complicated. But we take one thing at a time. Now we're going to make the boxes for the back and the front arm side or armhole up here. So for the width of the back, I will use half of the back width from center back in here, and half of the back width will be a measurement which I will not tell you because it will be different for everybody. I just had to calculate it in my head. So I measure it 2 places here, and then I draw a right angle down to the waistline. and I stop there. From the center front I will measure back 1/5 of the chest girth plus 2. So I will calculate that, and then I will mark it from center front and back over here. And I do it 2 places to make sure it will be a right angle. And then I draw this line all the way through. Down to the length of the jacket. So the armhole area will be over here. So here is the front part, here is the back part, and over here the side panel will appear. So now we're gonna make the back part over here. And to start out, we're gonna shape the center back line over here. So we actually make a dart, or a kind of a dart, in a center back seam. So what we do is that we measure 0.75 centimeters in here, so it's a little bit below 1 centimeter. And then I just round that line down to the quarter of the back waist length. At the waist I measure in 1 centimeter, and then I measure in 1 centimeter at the hip too, and make a straight line downwards here. So this centimeter will be deducted from the back. Then I just simply shape this line from that centimeter up to the quarter up here. And of course, when you construct here, it will be a little bit pointy, and then you just round the lines more natural afterwards. So this area here is deducted, and also up here at the neck. Then from the neck here I will do the width of the neck in here. So I will take 1/6 of the neck girth. So I just calculate the neck girth divided with 6, and then I add 1 centimeter. So the whole of the neck girth divided with 6, and then add 1 centimeter. And that you mark from the deducted point over here at the center back. From that point I make a right angle upwards here, and up here it will be 1/3 of this width. So I take my calculator again, divide with 3, and then add 1 centimeter. Then I got a measurement which I mark up here. I take my French curve and I make a nice neckline up here. To make the shoulder over here, I have to measure the shoulder level for the waist up here. And that's not the whole shoulder level, it's the half of the shoulder level up here. So I look in my measurement chart here and find the shoulder level, and then I calculate, divide it with 2. And then I measure it on the back arm side line. So I mark it up here. And then I make my tilted back shoulder up here. And of course you say this is enormously tilted, this back shoulder, but here you have to remember that the shoulder line is pulled a little bit backwards, because over here you get a more bias angle on the fabric, and then it would be easier to ease in the fabric. So that's why it's a very tilted angle over here. For the shoulder width over here, I look in my measurement chart, and then I add 1 centimeter. And the 1 centimeter is for ease. So I have my mark over here. This line, or this arm side line, armhole line, is supposed to be rounded down to this point over here. The line we put a little bit up of above the half back waist length. So I put my French curve here and draw a nice line up here. From this point I should make the back side seam, and that's supposed to be down here 4 centimeters in from the back arm side line. So I measure 4 centimeters in here. And then I make a nice round seam line from up here and down to that 4 centimeter mark. The measurement I have here left, I just make, at the measurement I have here at the waistline, I just make a right angle downwards. And mark it. So this is the back part. And now we're going to start on the front part, and then we start over here. And then we have a center front height up here. So we start to find that measurement, and then we mark it up here. From that point we make a right angle inwards. I don't know how long it's supposed to be just yet, but I mark 1 centimeter in, and then I'm gonna make a rounded line. Try to find a nice line in to the center front line over here. So this is a little dart or something that's going to be deducted from the neckline over here. To make the rest of the neckline I have to make a little calculation. I'm gonna use again a sixth of the neckline plus 1, just the same amount I took over here, and place it over here. So I mark it, and remember to place the measurement from within the little dot you made here and mark it up here. And then it will be a right angle up here. But before we do that, we're gonna look into if we want a dot in here on the chest area, under the lapel of the jacket. The lapel will be folded over here. So why would we like a dot here? Yeah, well, for some people who have a high chest, if you're a sportsman or if you train bodybuilding or something like that, you need a dot here to make the area look smooth. So what we say there is, if you have a more hollow chest area, we don't add anything over here. If you are a normal build, what normal is, we add 1 centimeter in here for a dot that will be deducted afterwards. If you are a more sports person with a higher chest, you add 2 centimeters, and if you are a bodybuilder type or something like that, you add 3 centimeters on here. So 0 added for a hollow chest, 1 centimeter for more normal build, 2 centimeters for sports persons, and 3 centimeters for a bodybuilder type. So I will add 1 centimeter here, which I think it's the more normal build. So I make a right angle up here. So a little repetition. I have 1 centimeter dot over here, deducted from center front. I have the same measurement as over here, 1/6 of the neckline plus 1. And then I add the amount of dot I will place over here afterwards. It can be from 0 to 3 centimeters. I added 1. Up here in the neck, I will go up 1/6 of the neckline only. So here it was 1/6 plus 1, and here it's 1/6 only. So I will mark it up here. And just to make sure over here that there's actually nothing wrong here if this area goes below the line and this area goes on the top of the line or otherwise. It's just a measurement of the shape or the stature of the person. If it's long back and short front, the person is bending forward. If you have a high front and a lower back, the person will have a very prominent chest and a backward lean to the person. It can be a little bit difficult when you measure, it always is. So if the person moves around and turns while you measure, this can be a little bit wrong from time to time. But it's very easy to correct it up at the shoulder here. So what you do with the pattern construction is that you just draw your lines, you make up a sample in just cotton, and then you can adjust it up here. So you just try to make it as well as you can, and then you can correct it afterwards. Now we would like to make the shape of the shoulder, and as I did at the back, I measured up the half of the shoulder level. Now I do the same in the front. So I measure up here and I just place the same amount over here. Of course I could just make a line over here, but I think that's a little bit confusing. So now I draw from the neck point through the shoulder level half of the shoulder level point, and continue out here. Over here, this measurement should be 1 centimeter less than on the back. So this will be the shoulder width only. So I will mark that over here. Here the front arm side will be placed, and just to have something a little bit to help you with that measurement, I usually measure up 5 centimeters up here and 1 centimeter in here, and you should not take this as a certain measurement in any way. The important thing is that you usually need to go in a little bit to make a round line here. And where should this line end? Down here? Well, we usually say 1/2 of the chest girth in here. So I measure 1/2 of the chest girth in here, make a mark, and then I use and then I use my French curve again, and then I try to adjust this one. As you can see, if I turn it on one side, I don't know if this is clockwise or counterclockwise, but if I turn it one side, the hollowness will be more prominent, and if I turn it the other way, it will be more flat. And as I usually say, you can have how many rulers or French curves as you would like. You will probably never find the exact curve that you would use. And you can see over here there are enormous amount of different rulers and curves. So what you do when you don't get the exact one, that you do a part of it. So I will now make this part up here, and then I just turn it around and I can make it the lower part afterwards. If this should be a shirt or something, fairly simple or straightforward, I can just continue the arm side up here to the back. But we're gonna move the side panel backwards for a greater fit for the jacket later on. So I just stop over here for now. I go back to the neckline, and there I would of course want a roundness over here too. And as you can see in this construction, there are really no measurements where to put the curve. So I say it's easy to remember with a simple construction, and then you just have to learn where to place the curves, and it depends on the person that you make it for too. Now we're going to place a dart down here and a front dart down here. So we need to have a measurement in here, and here we have 1/8 of the chest girth over here. So I take my calculator and I put in the chest girth, divide with 8, and then I got a measurement that I will use. I place the measurement on the chest line, and I make sure to place it some other areas here to make a true angle down here more easily to place. I make a true angle downwards all the way down, and I place, make a more clear line, and I make a line up to the neck here. So I make a fairly a fairly right angle to the neckline up here, and I make it all the way down here, and about 10 centimeters down here I make my dart. or the length of the dart. So I mark half of the dart on each side of the center line, and then I place the dart up here in the neckline. So the centimeter I added here is what gonna be deducted up here in the neckline. So if I added 2 centimeters for a more sports-like person or a high chest, I will deduct 2 centimeters here. So these two things are fitted together. So the neckline still will fit. Over here I will place a dart with 1 centimeter on each side of the waistline, and the dart will go up to the 8th chest girth point. So I place it like that, and then I deduct 2 centimeters here from the hip line, and then I end my dart down to that hip line. My pencil, now my pen is where to end out, so I have to change pen and see if this one will work better. So now you can see we have the center front, the length of the jacket, the side of the front panel, and the front of the arm side, the shoulder here, that's a little bit higher than the back because the seam is tilted backwards, and the neckline up here, and a little dart here in the center front. Here in the back we have the back seam down here, and the back arm side and the shoulder, that's a little bit lower looking, and the neckline, and then we have a shaped center back. Now I will add a dart over here in the center back, and then you will ask, why do that dart, well, why is it placed there? I just place it there to address that it makes a much better shape if you place a dart here. We usually almost never use it for any part. We move the dart to the back or to the center side back seam, but I just want to address that actually a dart here will be a better shape for a men's jacket. So I just put it out there, and of course a lot of people will hate that. No, not hate. A lot of people will argue that that's kind of stupid, but anyway, I will place it there. So I find the middle here of the back, and then I just make a right angle downwards and upwards. I deduct 5 centimeters up here and 5 centimeters down here, and I make a tiny dart on 1/2 centimeter on each side, and then I just place it up here. So this is just me addressing that why should men not have a better shape in the back. In the olden days, the back seam, as you can see also in a tailcoat for example, the back seam went in here, so you had a much better shape in the back, and then you had a seam over here, so you could make a kind of a joke, or yeah, well, extra part, lower part of the jacket down here. But anyway, this one is fairly never used, but I just place it there anyway. So that's the back dart for you. Now we're gonna make the side panel, and what we do with the side panel, I will show you over here on a piece of paper. We have the side panel marked here, but we remove the side panel backwards. So it will be that we remove some fabric over here, and then we add it on the back, so we get a broader back for the back muscle, yeah, the broader back. So we push the fabric over here. And for doing that, we have to mark where the arm side crosses the front arm side line down here. So I mark it over here, and then I just make a dotted line, a striped line over here, passing through the back side line over here. So I will return to this one. I just have to calculate the waist darts now. And then I will take, or for that, I will take 1/2 of the chest girth. And this is 1/2 of the chest girth. So I take this measurement and then I deduct 1/2 of the waist girth. And I also deduct the darts. So it will be 1/2 of the chest girth minus 1/2 of the waist girth minus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters. So I take my fancy calculator. Half of the chest girth minus half of the waist girth, and that is something, and minus 4. And then I got an amount that I call X. And this amount I should divide in 3 areas. I place 1/3 in front of the front arm side line and 1/3 on the back of it, and then I place 1/3 forward of the back side line. So 1/2 of the chest girth minus 1/2 of the waist girth minus 4, and the X I got I divide in 3 areas. So I have 1/3 X here, 1/3 X here, and 1/3 X here over to the front from the back side seam. So now I place the front seam of the side panel, and that will address as a dart. So I take it from the mark I made up earlier where the front arm side cross the front arm side line, and I take it down to the waist dart, and then I continue it down to the hip line over here. And now the little bit tricky part. We're gonna deduct some fabric here and push it backwards, and that I calculated to 2 centimeters, or it's said that it should be, so it's 2 centimeters. So I move this 2 centimeters to the back, and from that area I go down to the waist dart and continue to the hip area. So this area is going to be removed, and you can see I have a gap over here now. The area I removed here, of course I will have to add it over here, otherwise this chest measurement will be too narrow. So where the back seam crosses my little dotted mark line here, I add 2 centimeters. I do it like this so you see it more clearly, hopefully. I have to do it like this, sorry. I add 2 centimeters to the back. So here I remove some fabric, I push it backwards, and here it will cross over. So through this point the moved point, I go down to the waist over here and continue up to the higher of the half back waist length line. So I end up here. So you see where the arm side crossed the front arm side line, I pushed back the fabric 2 centimeters, and then where the back seam crossed my slashed or dotted line over here, I push back the seam 2 centimeters and make it from my waist start and pull through that point and up to the higher chest line, chest width line. From up here I can now make my new arm side or lower part of the arm side. So it will go from here down to the lower chest girth line and up over here. So the front arm side or armhole goes from the shoulder down to our mark here where it crosses the front arm side line, and then we jump over here, and then the arm side continues up to the pointed part here, which continue down here. So as you can see, you have the front part here, the back part here, and then you have the side panel. So the side panel is pushed back to make it more tight here at the chest and more full at the back. This line goes nowhere down here, it just stops for now. So of course we have to calculate where it should end. And then it depends on the hip of the person, because this whole box is 1/2 chest girth. So we have to see if the hip girth can be placed here. And of course we have to remember that we deducted 1 centimeter here in the back. So what we do is that we take half of the hip girth and deduct half of the chest girth minus 1. So we have to take minus 1 of the chest girth first. So I take my wonderful calculator here. It actually works on sun energy, so it has been working since the 80s. I take half of the chest girth minus the 1 centimeter, and I got that measurement, and then I take half of the hip girth, and I have to look in my measurement here. So I take half of the hip girth minus the measurement I got here. So that will be, oh sorry, so I got a measurement here, and I have to promise not to mention my measurements because it's so different for persons. But yes, I got a measurement here, and I add that. If I got a positive measurement, I have to add it out here, because then it means that the hip girth is wider than the chest girth. So I just continue it out here, and from the dart, and I just continue down here. I can do it with a round area down here if I would like that. So it goes more straight down here. But it doesn't really matter, because you have to put the dart here if you want a dart over here. So it's a free line down here. So actually that is the basic sloper for you. And of course, as you can see, everything is really pointy. That's the problem with pattern making, that you have some points which you follow, And then of course we have to adjust this. Over here we're gonna add the front lap, we're gonna add the top button, we're gonna make the collar and the lapel over here so it can be folded, pushed back here. Of course we have to adjust something with the dart over here, and all lines are gonna make more fluid all over. We're also gonna cut up this one because this of course is skin tight, so we have to add more measurement over here. We're gonna add allowance and so forth, and we're gonna start with that on the next episode. But before I go, I just want to mark in a little bit clearer the pattern pieces here. So I take my markers and I start with the back. It goes down here and up at the center back in a rounded back line. I have a very high back here and a tilted backwards shoulder with some ease. I have my back armhole. I have an important mark over here, and then this line just continues in a narrow back and goes down to the hemline. And the side panel, it also starts down here and it goes on top of the back part and it continues up, and you have the pushed back arm side and side back seam, and you have the rounded area here, and then you have the removed part in the front, and you continue down on the front side seam. The front part starts also down here and it joins line here, and then you have the dart and it continues up to arm side. You have an important line here, and you have the front arm side up here, the shoulder and the neckline, a little dart up here and a dart around here, the neckline, and then you continue down the center front, and we have a front dart over here, and of course the ever so important waistline is already there, and over here. So this is the front part over here, center front, hemline, waistline, neck dart, shoulder, front, arm side, front dart. Here is the side panel, pushed back for better shape, waistline, hemline, and it lays on top of the back part that's over here. It's narrow on the back and it's narrow over the hips and the waist, and then it gets broader up here for a better look, and a pushed back shoulder. And I have to say, of course, as always, this is a basic sloper. This is not in any kind of finished jacket. So we're gonna add front lap, collar, we're gonna add more width, all the lines are gonna be shaped. We're gonna add in a pocket here, so the darts end in a pocket and this dart removes. We're gonna add a pocket over here. Here it's gonna be added facings for the back vent, or over here. And this area, or this dart, is almost never used, so we're going to remove that back and forth. And the neckline is usually made higher up here for a better fit. And as I said before, I didn't measure any measurements because all the measurements are individual. I used my developed pattern construction manual for menswear sloper. And of course, if you want to know more about these pattern making tutorials, feel free to look on the description for more information. So, well, try it, and I look so much forward to see you next time. Bye!